if one of them was with the
Sorry. And they're live now? This way. Good.
Almost. Sorry.
We just lacrosse training today.
Yes, so she's gone the week after. So.
She's very excited.
Yeah, I sensed that right off.
I have to say that because it doesn't come across that way.
Well, yeah.
We're recording now.
All right, we got a phone call. That's Sally.
Sally. Are you there?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to listen in. I'll put my hand on mute.
Okay.
All right, so we're recording and want to welcome everyone to the City of Cottonwood Heights, our council work session this Tuesday, February 19th, 2019. We want to begin the meeting by excusing our city manager, Tim Keith, who is home ill. Also need to excuse tonight Councilmember Christine Michael, who is traveling for business. And also, though we're not excusing because she's listening on the phone, we have Councilmember Bruce, who is home ill with pneumonia. So we wish those who well to those who are sick, and Councilmember Michael safe travels. So this is one of those strange months where lots going on. So, with that being said, first thing on the agenda is reviewing the business meeting agenda items. Hopefully you have that in front of you. So we have two standing monthly reports. We have our monthly financial report, and Scott will be doing that. Our UFA report, Chief Watson will be doing that. We have some action items. The first item tonight for action is consideration of our ADU ordinance to take action regarding that. The second item is approving enactment of a PDD 1 zone for the Welch property. To approve or deny that. Item 4.3 is approving the general plan amendment for a property on Prospector. Now, Mike, these are both Prospector, 4.3 and 4.4.
It's a two-part proposal. It's a general plan amendment and then a zone map amendment. Okay. So we've considered it as one item, but it's technically two separate decisions.
Thank you. And then, so that's 4.4 is the second part of that. 4.5 is approving entry into an independent contract agreement with Spectrum Engineering for a feasibility study. This is regarding, with the sustainability resolution we passed, this is a small step in that regard, is looking at the feasibility of installing solar panels, so to speak, on this building. Item 4.6 is ratifying acceptance of the bid and awarding a contract to DRD paving. This is for the completion of the big Cottonwood Canyon Trail, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right, a piece of that. That's for $189,000. Item 4.7, approving a small grant request for state of Utah. This is $2,750. This is for the Arts Council. Okay. Any questions on any of those? I'm wondering if, just as a heads up, on the Walsh property, Mike, do you want to take a minute now and talk about a couple of things so the council is aware of those things before?
Yeah, I can, certainly.
Yeah, there's a couple of modifications that were made from our last meeting. Yeah.
Dan, you mind just pulling that slide up really quick?
Which one?
Just the
Which PDD passed or
No,
PDD
not-
1801?
yes. So at the last meeting,
We'll have to do this inside though as well.
yeah, a real quick update from the last meeting. Thanks. Oops. During the work session discussion of our last meeting, two main points came up related to this proposal. One was in regards to the commercial use of the mixed-use units and verifying that commercial use was being operated in those units. The other was in regards to public open space. So we've worked with the applicant and their team to refine the language in the ordinance and in the plans to better reflect these desires by the city. This is a summary of recent modifications. This is not all in the last 2 weeks, but generally since the Planning Commission. I can go into this in more detail in the business meeting. But the two I'll focus on are the mixed-use commercial use requirement, the public creek trail, the creek, and the language in the ordinance now states that at any point on a city master plan, if there's a trail identified in this area, at any point in which that trail, either from the north or the south, connects through this property to a point of public access, then this trail, while it be constructed on a public trail currently, will be able to incorporate that trail into a public trail easement, at which point it become part of an official city trail system. So the requirement now is that they construct the trail to a width of 6 feet wide.
And maintain it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, currently.
They'll maintain it until at that time.
I mean,
Until
one would
such time
expect
that-
but
yeah.
at the same,
It'll be open to the, it'll be open to the public.
Yeah. And then part by a little Cottonwood Creek Trail, which is in the works anyways. And at some point in the future, if and when that connects to one side or the other and is public through a trailhead or some other public access, then we can go in and we built in language to require that we can put a public trail easement over that.
that should then become an easement.
Right, and you can
But
see
right now,
that.
it's not formally an easement.
Correct. The area, it's a little hard to see on this plan, but it's this layer of hashed area here is that public trail area.
So that includes the creek and then 6 feet on one side or the other?
Or is that a different hash?
That's the same hash.
Oh, it's here. This is a different half right there. You have all this dotted that's not.
Yeah, the dotted is different, but
It's on the west side of the creek, it looks like.
so the trail will be constructed and then will be a public trail and then can be encumbered by a public trail easement when the connection is made through this property. And the requirement is that the trail be paved with asphalt, concrete, or crushed stone. I think the plan right now is to do concrete. But again, at a width of 6 feet rather than a standard 5-foot sidewalk. The other requirement that was discussed last time was the commercial use requirement in the mixed use units. We talked a little about what requires a business license and what doesn't, and the state code requires a license if you own a business and are operating that out of your home. But if you're an employee of a company working from home, you don't necessarily need a business license. Yet that's still a commercial use. So we've built in language now to require the applicant on a quarterly basis, along with their BMR unit report, to submit a report of the commercial use taking place in each of those mixed-use units. And if they require a business license, they'll have that regardless. But if it's an employee working for a company from home that doesn't necessarily need that license, we'll be able to verify that in that quarterly
The
report.
penalty for non-compliance on either the use or the commercial use of the BMR, is that?
Well, this will become an ordinance, so then it would become an ordinance violation.
So whatever.
Is the requirement that they report or that they have a commercial use and report?
Yes, the second.
Okay.
And so if they fail on one of those, and that would, we cite them on whatever, and there's usually a daily fee that's attached to that for each day they're out of compliance.
So the other modifications in there have been in place for a few meetings now, but the BMR units, we've further refined that language to ensure that from the city standpoint, we're able to calculate what affordable is based on area median income, and we've developed a formula to be able to achieve that, and worked with the applicant to be able to find a formula that meets the ordinance, that's easy to report, that's easy to verify.
What is that, 50% of median?
50% of area median income. And those 20 units are incorporated into the ordinance now. The tree preservation requirement stems back from when this came over from Planning Commission, but that requires tree preservation where possible. And if any trees need to be removed, it needs to be verified and justified by an arborist first. Before
Say that again.
Any tree that is removed. We just want to see essentially a tree protection and removal plan before the site is modified in any way.
Yeah. Being a Parks and Rec guy, we want to save every tree we can.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's the intent behind that provision. The fence height along the south side of the property adjacent to single family and to the orchards has been increased from 6 feet to 8 feet. And then
I'm assuming that was at the request of the neighbors mostly?
Yes, and it was, even though the motion failed at the Planning Commission, it was part of the motion by the Planning Commission for an 8-foot fence along there. And the rest has been finalizing formatting and making sure it's cohesive and grammatically structured properly, and preparing the development plan that goes along with it.
Shane, maybe a question to you. If we missed a dot, an I, or crossed a T wrong, would we go through what would be the fixing it? There you go, remedy. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, if an application comes in before we fix it, we are going to be stuck with the ordinance that has been enacted. If modifications are proposed and the process commences before a full complete application comes in and all fees are paid, well, then we can correct anything that we need to correct. I think that we have gone through this quite a bit, and I will be surprised if we have missed anything material.
Okay, well then my follow-up question you just answered. I mean, that was kind of, so when they make an application, then that kind of freezes what we have, and that's kind of the end of it.
That's standard, yeah, that's standard land use law.
Okay, any further questions on this item for the business?
I guess just really quick, if they decided they wanted to change something, does that start the whole process over?
Be an amendment to an adopted ordinance. So yeah, Planning Commission hearing, City Council. Yeah.
Is that addressed in our PDD?
That's again standard. Any modification to any chapter of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, any further discussion on that topic? And before we move on, I see Ben Hill's here. Any discussion on any other action items real quickly before we move in? Hearing none. Ben, welcome Ben Hill here, who's the director of the Cottonwood Parks and Recreation Service Area. Come on, Ben, and grab a seat. Sure. And I think as the council knows that the city contracts with the special taxing district to handle reservations of our parks and to manage our parks. And a few years back we built Bounty Park, and with that we put in a regional amenity in a community park. And by doing that you attracted a broader base of people, and it was almost overrun. And back then we passed a resolution or a guideline that the only people who could reserve that pavilion would be city residents. And Ben is here to talk about that position.
I think, thank you, Mayor Peterson. So as we manage or rent the pavilion and program the park, we of course take the council that's given by the city to do that. And I think what's been in place since I've been up there is residents of the city can rent the pavilion at any time that space is available. The pavilion gets rented out regularly. There's not very much open time for others to rent it. The only times would be the times that aren't really looked at as fun times. So the weekends are all taken.
Sunday morning at 5 a.m.
Yeah, these random times, Tuesday night maybe might be available. But what we've
We don't want
done,
anyone to do it Tuesday night because they're supposed to be here.
yes, that's might be why it's the what we've done with all the other pavilions in these that we manage is that they're online and open to anyone to register. They go through the registration process online. That then comes onto a program manager's table to approve it or not. We can't do that for Mountain View because you can't online, at least in our system, you can't verify whether it's a resident or not. So the Mountain View, they have to come in to prove residency. I think, as I've talked with my staff, we kind of have a win-win situation, and I would probably just throw that out and let get the feedback on it, is what we'd like to do, and we could do this across the table for all pavilions. We could even, we've already thought of the process with tennis courts as well, is that from January 1st to March 31st, the pavilions would be available for city residents only. You would have to come in, it'd be in person, come in and get your time for any time in the summer. April 1st is when you can actually reserve the park or the pavilion. So if before April 1st, you can come up and use it first come, first serve. But we don't enforce reservations until April 1st. So hopefully we get the word out there that residents, you have a jump start. And you have 3 months to allow anyone at any time that's left to be able to take it up.
You said you would do that for all the pavilions?
Yeah, then we could be consistent with all the pavilions.
So even the service area pavilions as well?
Yep, and it would have the same guideline that we would hold those to residents of either the city or the service area.
You do county pavilions?
We do.
And you probably couldn't use that same rule for those, could you?
Yeah, because the county allows us to, just like the city does, to program and maintain those. So yeah, we could.
So would you reserve the county parks for city residents, though? That seems a little inconsistent, maybe.
The only one we have is the Mill Hollow one. But you're right, I mean, those, if that's a county, wait, I hadn't thought about that. If it's a county pavilion, then that should be available for their citizens, which would be countywide. We could do that. That would be the exception that we could.
So we actually have 2 counties. Butler's also county.
Yeah.
But with the contract with the county, that's something you can talk with them and
See how they would.
That makes sense, so that would be available to the county.
Yep.
Yep.
The biggest hurdle that we have at the Mountain View Pavilion is the size of it. It is so large, and you can't really limit on the small side of it. A family of 20 can reserve that pavilion for the fee that we charge, any fee. And now there's 20 people occupying that space, and the patrons of the park that are there just visiting the park kind of look over and go, why can't I sit at that table? You're
all the way over there.
And the fight starts happening of, no, we've got this whole thing rented, we don't want you in our space. So we kind of want to look at maybe a possibility of dividing to where maybe you could have 2 rentals at the same time going on. You could say, okay, at Mountain View, we can split it down the middle, and I don't have all the kinks worked out, but you could have 2 rentals at the same time, or someone could rent just half of it, so it would just leave half of it available.
As long as whoever's renting it knew that was the case.
Yeah. And they'd pay a reduced fee.
Yeah. So those are some thoughts. I don't think we would advertise openly, hey, April 1st, it's available for everyone. It would just naturally happen that people, I think they've gotten to have it because what the problem was before is the residents didn't have the opportunity to rent the pavilion because it was taken up by the non-residents. If we allow April 1st to be available to everyone, it wouldn't be I think people are in the habit now of kind of knowing that it's more of a city pavilion to rent. And so that kind of would just go forward, and we get a few, or not very many.
So you're talking about April 1, you just basically open it up online, so So anyone calling in before that, you need to come in and do it.
And prove
If
their
they're willing to
residency.
do that and show residency, then they can go ahead and get that put on.
When do you start taking reservations?
January 1st.
Yeah, most people will come in immediately because they have a date in mind.
Yeah. And we would advertise to the users to continue next year, remember, come in before March 31st, and residents will have the prime opportunity here. Word of mouth will spread, everyone will be getting their requests in before that, one time learning that, ooh, I didn't get my date I wanted. They learn that, oh, I can do it on January 1st or January 2nd. Next year they're in very early.
This would start next January.
I don't know if we'd have a hurdle starting at this April 1st, just a soft opening, because I don't think we get a lot of requests anymore from the non-resident, because they've learned.
For Mountain View.
For Mountain View, they've learned when they call that they've been told it's only for residents. So without putting it out there in social media, which I don't know why we would, it would just, we get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it wouldn't be a huge demand. So, but we definitely could say, hey, let's start this next year.
If you didn't think it was, I like the idea, that makes some sense, it gives an opportunity for residents. I mean, because they paid the bulk of the money for that park to get a shot at it. I mean, that's easier than doing a rolling 90 days ahead, or like what we do with the community room and stuff here.
I've seen that same idea work successfully in other similar kinds of things, so that makes sense to me.
So, do you know if this position was passed formally by the council historically, or was this administrative direction, do you remember?
I remember it was wide open, but there was such a huge
I remember that
demand,
clearly.
that we restricted it.
Shane, do you remember how we restricted it?
How we restricted use of the pavilion?
Yeah.
I remember discussions that because city taxpayers were bearing the brunt of the cost and the repayment, that they ought to have first call on rental of the pavilion.
But how do we change that?
I don't recall if we have, I don't recall the form of the directive.
That's my.
And so I would have to go back and look. It may be in the contract with the rec district.
Do you know if it's in your contract?
Got that here, I don't recall seeing, well,
I can write myself a note and look at it.
yeah, and I can look at that too, and that could be something.
Because if it needs to be a resolution or something, we'd have to do that at our.
Yeah, I don't recall a park policy, but it may have just been discussions and verbal direction, but, so I will look tomorrow on my directory and see what I can find.
And outside of that would just be direction to Tim to make that administrative change, I guess.
To who? To Tim? Yeah.
I don't want to give it to
I still think
Mike, but then nobody knows who we're talking about.
it comes across very positive for the city residents if it's worded that the positive side of, hey, these first 3 months is for residents, and then we'll open it up. I don't think we have to, I don't think we need to necessarily say we're going away from what we were doing. This is just what we're doing going forward, unless we need to.
Well, we'll let Shane take a look at it and see if it needs, what form of action it needs to be to give you that direction to make that adjustment.
Thank you.
You may want to talk to Wayne Johnson as well and find out.
About it, yeah.
About they might say they don't care, or they might.
Yeah, and the more consistent we can be for citizens.
Because those interlocal agreements was trying to provide some continuity and consistency among, your pavilions, the county pavilions, and our pavilions, because we all have a couple and have kind of the same rules, and that was the intent. But I guess
That's the nice thing about one point of contact for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I like, in our agreement, we've got it right there about why that is, and that's why we're here. Yeah, that's why I'm happy to come in.
Okay, so I'm unless the council members present have any objection, we give you general direction to prepare for that, and we'll have Shane look at what form that needs to come in. Thanks for joining. Sure you don't want to stay? It's a fun night.
Yeah.
No?
Pretty sure. Pretty sure.
I just had my board meeting.
Oh, all right, all right.
Thank you.
See you. Okay,
We didn't want to leave the board chair and make sure that the meeting today was short, so we did that.
yeah, that's smart. All right, looking at the agenda once again, City Council and staff reports. The first item, Tim is ill, so Matt, are you going to talk about electric charging stations at City Hall?
Yes, sir. I've given you a brief summary. We've had this discussion in the past about installing chargers here at City Hall, and you've asked us to go and work with different people, companies, if you will. We met with Rocky Mountain Power, excuse me, and they suggested we work with a company called Verdec, who is out of Colorado, but they work with Hunt Electric here in the state, so it's all tying itself back in. Verdec is on the state contract, so purchasing the charging stations is not a bid process. We can buy them off of the state contract. Rocky Mountain Power does have a rebate for this. It's about $4,000 to $4,500, and it is it's not an application. It's just if you do the project, you submit your receipts, and they will do a rebate for it. So in working with Verdec, we found that when City Hall was built, actually in the electrical room over here, there is a place for a charging station, and there's also conduits that were run over here into the parking lot on the north side by the dumpsters. So there's a couple of spots there that were apparently planned for having charging stations. So in getting the pricing, the estimated cost in working with them, the pricing was, oh my goodness, did I give that? I'm sure I thought I gave that to you.
The 28,000?
Yeah, 28. Am I missing a sheet? I must be. Yeah. Anyway, the cost for that was, oh, there it is. The cost for that was about approximately $28,000 to install 2 stations, 4 chargers. So plug on each side. And then there was a question about the monthly cost that came up. Now, all things being utopia and wonderful, if the stations were being used 8 hours a day, charging a vehicle, they estimate about $135 a month to operate each nozzle. That's assuming that they're all operating at peak. There's also a cost, I've tried to toss it, I put it in here for monitoring from the company, which is about $93 a month. And the company that I visited with, this Verdec, has said you should not do this unless you are charging for the use. Because one of the things they've found is that people will come and plug in and walk away. And so you're really not getting that peak use that what it's there for. So it's kind of a catch-22, if you will. If you don't charge, you'll get maybe 2 cars on it or 4 cars, and they may plug in and stay all day long.
I'll come back tomorrow morning.
Yeah, come back tomorrow morning and pick their car up, if you will. Also, another...
Does maybe you're getting an install fee include of some kind of billing mechanism?
Yeah, the way this system works, it's on the charge point system, which is around the nation. So there is a billing mechanism that you can do, and the company that runs this charges you 10%. So if you're charging 10 cents, whatever you set your cost at, they'll charge you 10% of that to manage the billing, the usage. It tracks anything and everything that's going on with it. So it's about $500 or so a month to operate this system. But if you're charging, then your cost is your initial upfront capital cost of roughly $28,000. minus the 4, so 20, do the math, I'm from Duval County. There you go, 24,000, there you go. Sorry, Duval County Public School System, my apologies.
How long does it take to charge a car? 3/4?
I don't know.
Sometime.
I don't know, honestly, I don't know the answer. The idea is, charging here is when you come here for business, and you're here to do something, you can plug it in, come inside, do some things, and so you're always topping off as you go. I think going from a 0 to a full charge is about those with electric cars would know better than I would, but about 24 hours to do a full charge from 0 to where it needs to go. But if you're coming here for business and you just want to make sure you're topped off, that's really what this is for. Now, although this is part of the charge point system, I really don't see this as being a waypoint, a point that people would look for on their phones and come off the freeway and drive all the way up here to charge their car. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But yeah, depending on how low you are and where you're going.
But if you're a high school student, it might be a really nice benefit.
You could plug in, but that's why you might need to charge them for it. So anyway.
A skier would do it, except it's not a really close bus stop.
That's true. So you asked us to look at a cost for those. We are plumbed, so the installation cost for the building is fairly inexpensive. Hunt Electric, they run the wire.
Have you tried to run your conduit just to be sure that it's sound?
We haven't run a tape through it, no. We haven't done that yet. So there is that possibility, but we did not go that far as to run a tape through it. Snake
So
tape.
again, what you're saying, Matt, is it the 28 for the full cost of installation?
28 for the full cost, and then there's a $4,000 rebate
Right.
that Rocky Mountain Power, so 24,000.
Right.
Is that per
and that
station?
24, does
No,
that-
that's for the 2 stations.
Two
sorry.
stations,
For the
okay.
2 stations, 4 plugs.
Right. And for those, does that, I think if I read this quickly in the packet Tim sent out to all
Okay.
of us, that includes the 5-year maintenance? And
Yeah, that's the, I'm sorry, that's the $280 a year per nozzle maintenance.
And is the monitoring different than the maintenance?
Monitoring's 10 cents, 10% of your cost.
Didn't you say
No,
some
it says
other?
here, parts
And then there's a-
on-site labor to repair or replace any manufacturing defect, blah, 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 when purchased at time for 5 years. 4,400?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, yes, you are correct.
Yeah,
That's the warranty.
yeah, okay. That's in.
Yeah, I apologize,
No,
I was.
yeah. Okay. Well, council, yeah,
That's, you asked us to bring that back, we didn't put it, I don't think it's on the agenda for any approval tonight,
No,
other than
it's
just
not.
discussion,
I think the natural.
how you would like us to progress.
Well, my quick response, and let the council member here respond as well, is that one, it needs to go back to the budget committee, for one. And
It's
two-
not in this year's current budget.
No, it's
No.
not.
Yeah,
You don't have just that much money laying around.
I don't, and I
No,
haven't
it's
pushed
material
this
now.
any further than just getting some data for you.
No, yeah, I think it goes back to the budget committee, and Tim, who's putting together a strategic plan, so to speak, on sustainability and where this fits in with that. Look at this.
We could also look at doing an analysis of solar, the building as well.
Yeah.
That's a different
That's the contract that's on.
contract that's on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, it's on,
It's
it's
just
on
that
for action in our
minute.
business plan. And
Fine
two,
with
with, then with Christine and Tally too, they want to look at this, and especially Christine, who understands as well.
Okay, so that was a feasibility study that they did.
Correct.
Actually getting it done, I don't remember how much that was gonna cost.
Oh, yeah, just,
Okay.
3,000 to-
is it 3?
3,500.
3,500, yeah.
And we verified those.
That's the next thing on the,
Closer to 9, I thought it was 6.
But let's move on to that, that's the next item we're looking at.
okay, this is on the agenda for the business session for approval. Tim and I felt it important that we come back based on the resolution that the council just passed a couple of meetings ago, as far as renewable energy, that we bring this back to you. This is the company I've asked to look at this, Spectrum Engineers, are the original company that did the work on the building. so they have a lot of insight as to what we have here. So I think that's one of the reasons the feasibility study is at the price it's at. What the feasibility study does, and I think I've outlined it in the report, it allows us to look at the building itself, figure out the space above us of what we can actually do, what percentage we want to go to, and give us a better idea of how to do that. It doesn't look at structural. We'd still need to design it and figure out the structures on top, but it does come back with a cost analysis, a payback cost, just a myriad of initial things that you would need as a council to decide how you would like to progress. At the end of it, when we're done, that'll give us a pretty good idea of how to write the request for proposal to design the PV on this building. So this is an initial look, a quick report that you'll get. When I say quick, it's a month or so of them collecting data of our usage. They'll review all of our power usage. They'll review the building, the best way to connect, the size of the panels the amount of panels we can put up on the roof, and go through those types of studies and be able to turn over to you that tool to make the next decision. So there you have it. That's on the agenda for tonight for your review and approval.
Have you heard of any rebates on studies like that for that 3,500?
Rocky Mountain Power has rebates or programs for doing
The study?
not the study. It's for the actual installation. Any engineering, they do not get involved with. The initial study, the design, they don't do that. Once you're done with that, then you go through the Blue Skies program and you buy the credits and do various things and join the program. And then there are abilities through that to get grants to help build the
Yeah.
right.
Well, Rocky Mountain Power, he was here saying.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain Power hasn't made me shy away from it. I mean, this was when Eileen was here. She's left, but she was really pushing that we have this ability to do that. But anything leading up to it, engineering, studies, and that are not eligible for this.
Does this contractor, I guess when we write the RFP, we would probably
We would use the information we get from this to help write the RFP.
find out if there's any grants out there for that type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in our business meeting tonight, this is on to give authorization to contract with Spectrum to do that.
For 3,500.
In this budget, so budget amendment to do that.
No?
Not, the amendment won't go today.
But it will be an amendment.
It would come in the future if you approve this.
It would be an amendment, the 3,500 would be an amendment, or that's something just absorbed?
We probably need to do an amendment because everything in capital projects is currently.
Was 3,500 is not capital, is it?
Well, it could be because it's related to the building and what will eventually be a capital project, so it could go that route. I'm not sure that we have a lot of extra. We haven't even talked to Tim, and I'm not sure if he hadn't talked to me about it before, so I'm not sure if he had some ideas of where he was going to go with that.
Do you know?
He hasn't talked to me about
where
exactly it would come from. I mean, I don't want to step on Scott. He knows
He's as big as you, so.
yeah, he knows what the rules of what we have to do. Yeah, I'm not going to arm wrestle him either. So, what it boils down to, I mean, we can absorb it in a couple of places if need be.
Okay.
But once again, he's got a process he needs to follow.
We're not going to spend an budget somewhere. It may need to be an adjustment with a transfer, not an increase in spending.
No, that's my assumption. That
But I want to make sure I'm not crossing.
If we went beyond 3,500, it would be an adjustment, but the study is something that we're doing as part of our operation.
That's it for that. Yes, sir.
You want to say anything else?
And what's next on the agenda? Maybe I can cover it.
No.
Website?
New website, right? Yeah, let me handle that one.
All right, next item on our agenda is a new website recommendation from Tim B., but we have a key member of that committee, we have a couple of them, so Councilmember Shelton, you want to do that, or Dan, you can do it? One of you?
Dan probably is
Sure.
better qualified to do it.
Yeah, just so we could submit a memo with the packet to
Yeah.
you that
Yeah.
has the
Yeah, I got
website.
it all.
Okay.
Okay, after a few weeks of discussion with the committee, the selection committee came up with, we have made a decision and an offer to Granicus. This is a provider that does this on a regular basis for government websites and local websites around the country, and even in parts of Canada as well. We did so with a scoring. We did a scoring independently among all the committee members, and came up with I think it was very much unanimous that that's who we were going to go with. Shane is now working on a contract with them to present at the next council meeting.
And how does the proposal, as far as fiscal time, does it deal with what we budgeted? Is it more or less?
That's
Did
actually-
you save $3,500 is what I want to know.
That's actually the good news. They're one of the least expensive ones that were in there, which is amazing because they actually offer the best product.
Are they local?
No, they are based out of Colorado. They're kind of all over, but I think their home office is in Colorado, but I could be wrong.
They're on the internet, so they're like everywhere.
Yeah.
But we did call all references all
Yes.
over the country, and they were all very good.
Yeah.
Some of the highlights of their package was a very user-friendly and easy to modify content management system, which is something that our current site has a little bit of trouble with. It's really a great. We think
Find
it's a great
somebody
package.
with a content management system that works the way we need it to, they'll stay with us forever.
The other great thing about it, it does have the option of for people who subscribe, for them to subscribe to a text messaging push notification. So we can actually push notifications to our citizens who sign up for that. There are limits on that, and there are costs involved with that.
Time frame of how long to make the transition?
They tell us they can do it by the end of June, and that's what our goal is. So actually, we think they could do
There's an
it.
important motivation to the end of June, so.
There is, because our current contract ends then,
Oh, okay.
and if we don't have a new site by then, we get them for another year. So we need
We get
to,
to pay for them.
pay for them for another year.
Yeah, that's good
The
motivation.
other part of the fiscal part of it is that we don't have to pay the full budget of the cost of for the redesign and everything up front. We get to prorate that over years. So we're able to not just do that big chunk up front, we can actually take it out a little bit at a time. So we can, the
So
full,
the amount we have budgeted versus what we'll spend during
This
this
year.
year is
Wales.
way under?
yeah, way under.
Okay.
So we're able to come in well under that, but we're able to take that, but the cost is somewhat less than the total that we budgeted for, but we're able to prorate out all those payments over what comes as part of the redesign fee and part of the regular maintenance fee. So they put that together and they amortize it, I guess is what you want to say.
Who's on the committee then?
Myself, Paula, Councilmember Shelton, Mike Johnson,
Beatrice.
Beatrice, Matt Irvin. Is that all?
So-
Yeah.
They're all unanimous?
Yeah.
It was unanimous. There was not even a bit of dissent on that,
Right.
so.
Some of our neighbors are also Granicus users,
Yes.
so Sandy, for example, is a.
We got good recommendations from everybody we talked to.
You can search their site.
You can go try.
You can try it, yes. Actually, Sandy is one of the sites that we looked at when we were looking at demos and things like that, so it's actually one of those things we're looking for. The other good thing about this is that we're putting together a design committee, which as soon as the contract is signed and ready to go, we'll get working on that right away and get going.
And so that would still be under yourself as far as managing the site once it's up?
Myself, Councilmember Shelton, Mike Johnson, we asked for one from Public Works, we're working on one from the police department, and
I
then
mean,
one
that, you're talking about design.
design committee,
Once
yes.
it's all designed enough, then it's.
Yeah. And then that's the other thing too, because it's so user-friendly, we're gonna be able to actually take out some of the responsibilities to other departments and let them manage their own content, which is really, because you can customize it to your needs and your message and what you want to do. So it's really a really nice package. What was the other thing that it does have the reporting system, they call it a CRM, Citizen Reporting, which is sort of what we call a citizen dashboard now.
Yeah.
It's not what I call a Cadillac of those things, but it is functional and works, which is a step above from what we started with in this one. So That means people will be able to go on their phones, they'll be able to go on to their, and they'll be able to report problems. There are bigger packages and more expensive things you can buy to go with that make that easier, but we think this is acceptable for what we're trying to accomplish. The other thing that's really great about it, we have I forgot where I was going to go with this. Anyway, it has all the features that we really want from our website. They hit all the marks that we asked for, and with a good cost.
That sounds great from you all across. I know that Mike has mentioned a couple times to me that it was going well and he was pleased, so hearing that the whole committee is pleased, that's good news. And the cost is right, so
yeah,
it's a better product.
And the customer experience, when I called the references, they gave us, we did ask what their customer experience has been, and they said that customers really like it. The problems they've been having are design problems that the city themselves has to fix, but they have, it's so user-friendly that's really easy to tweak it to make the customer satisfaction
improve.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Not to
Yeah.
be naive as I am when it comes to IT stuff, so, I mean, it's formatted for the phone.
That's it. That's what I was going to bring up. It what's really great about it is that when you collapse it down to a phone, it looks like it's made for a phone. It doesn't look like a smaller version of a website. That's the best thing. And a lot of sites are that way too, but this one actually eliminates
Because you have, because I think
photos.
most people do it by phone.
Actually, it consolidates everything to the basic buttons that you need on a phone, which you'd get on an app anyway, which is really nice. And some of the sites do that, and some of them do it better. This one does it the best. And that's the other thing we like about it. They designed their sites from mobile out. Some sites start from the desktop and move in. So we think this is much more progressive toward the technological aspects that we need.
Good news all the way around.
It is good.
Thanks to the committee, yeah. Good work.
We're stoked.
All right, that's the last item on city council staff reports. Is there anything that we need to walk on? We did get on there. Just two things that I just want to, well, maybe one primarily, I guess, is that in my weekly meetings with Tim, I shared with him that I thought one thing that we were not communicating as well as we should is that the council members and the mayor attend a lot of meetings throughout the week, and historically, we would take a few moments and share information. The intent was to have that on the packet. But sometimes I think that's a little bit problematic. So what we're going to do in the future going on, we'll have an agenda item listing. Did he talk to you about this?
Yes, sir.
And correct me if I mistake this. He'll have an agenda item monthly, I guess, identifying the different committees, and the council will have an opportunity to give some feedback. If it's Wasatch Waste, if it's VEC, or whatever it is, there's some things that are happening. Take just a minute and share something specific. You know, like with UFA, we're talking about the new interlocal agreement. There's lots of little things we need to get back on the table quickly that might be going through the cracks. So that'll be coming on a future agenda, but it won't be something that you'll be assigned to speak to each time.
I have it quarterly.
Is that what it is,
That
quarterly?
the city council will report
Okay.
on their committees as a group.
Okay.
So.
You have to remember 3 months worth of meetings.
Well, we might do it more.
So
often.
on the
I'll talk
log,
to you.
on the city council log that I shared with all of you, if you go look at the dates for the meetings, I show which one is the quarterly meeting that you would be reporting in on. If you decide to change, that's fine too, I can.
Yeah, I thought it was more often than that personally.
It seemed like if there's ever anything that's important, we'll bring it up.
But I want the council members that not to think that we don't want to hear what's going on in those meetings, because there's a lot going on. And sometimes this needs to be quick to the point and move on. But there's some important stuff that's coming up.
Yes, if you
All right.
can decide to change it, it's
No,
fine, just let me know.
I think that's probably what we talked about, yeah. Anything else on staff reports as we hear?
I think I had one item at the end there. Assistant Chief Brenneman is going to make a presentation in closed session tonight concerning security procedures.
I'm sorry, he talked to me before this meeting because we have two members not here.
Oh, we're going to defer
We
that.
have to defer, so they can be in attendance.
Okay, then never mind.
I'm
I'll,
sorry.
That's fine.
We rescheduled it to March 5th.
Okay,
Yeah, because we have everyone in attendance.
then never mind.
No, no, you were right on, it's right there, and I just have a cross to it, and we're done. All right, looking at calendar of upcoming events, you have that kind of listed before you. We have concerts, we have Arts Council has a show, the Teen Easter Party, the egg hunt in April,
There's an item missing there. The shakeout is on April 13th.
April 13th.
It was going to be the 20th, but that would be the same day as the egg hunt, and we can't have that, so.
Great shake.
Kind of
Shane,
shaking
we were
eggs.
supposed to talk about the quorum in public meetings.
Well, I understood that they were to be tied together, so
Oh, okay.
I assume I'm just being deferred until March 5th as well.
Okay.
I can do it.
So April 13th, Saturday at 9 a.m. is that shakeout. Make sure that's on there. I'll get that to you as well.
Yeah, that's probably better when everyone's here.
Also, the auditions have been moved to the auditions are back.
March 25th.
25th and 26th.
Do we have any, I don't think, we don't have anything in the closed session either, which was tied to the subject Shane was talking about. Without a full council here tonight, we would probably postpone that until the next meeting.
And Mayor, if we have extra time, if you want me to go ahead and do my little blurb tonight, why, and then Paul can do his closed session next time, it's up to you.
Well, we just don't have everyone here, so I wouldn't do it, yeah. Because I think that's important to have the other members with us. Okay, if there's nothing else, we are going to adjourn until 7 p.m.
Wow. Nice. Need some work.
Can I have a motion, please?
And we adjourn.
A second?
I'll second the week. Till 7. Because I listen to the mayor.
All in favor?
Hi.
Thank you.
We can go look at the photography show outside, or that's March.
There you go.
There's a lovely exhibit of art up below.
They're always
Just not quite close enough for our.
Pointillist.
Okay, here's your full on.
And who did it? Who seconded it? Was it just the mayor? The mayor usually does it. But the mayor is just.